noting that it is April 9th, 2025 and 7:01 p.m. I will call the Board of Health meeting to order. And this is a remote meeting, virtual meeting. So the first thing we'll do is have the board members announce their presence. So Daryl Beardsley present.
Steve Constantine present.
Julie Dreyfus present.
Diana Hook present.
And I didn't see Rebecca yet. So
I'm here. I'm here, Rebecca.
Oh, you are.
Incredible present. Sorry, I'm
Great.
actually en route from a long day at the office, so I'm in my car. Sorry.
Okay. No problem. I didn't recognize the number. Okay, so we have two items to be added as not reasonably anticipated by the chair. And actually, I'd say they don't fall under that. Well, one falls under that category. The other is an item under agent's business. In any case, one is for floor plans received for 30 North Main, and the other is a food establishment permit that came in after the meeting was posted. So for Wicked Fruitful. So do we have a motion to amend the agenda with those two items?
So moved.
Seconded.
Any further discussion? Hearing none.
Go ahead, Steve. Steve, do you want to lead the?
Steve.
I'm sorry.
We're voting to amend. We've had a motion and a second to amend the agenda, and now we roll call vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot. Steve Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Becca Honeywell, aye.
Daryl Beardsley, aye. Okay, so we have a number of items listed here. We'll get to them. Some are continuations and some are going to be continued again or withdrawn. So in any case, what we do have are quite a few food permits for upcoming events, including the Library Arts and Crafts Fair. And I'll note this is like nicely well in advance of that event on May 10th. So, and I'll let Tom Curran provide information about that.
Thank you, Daryl. So I've been in correspondence with all of these food vendors. I've requested their certifications, copies of their menus. I've also solicited their most recent health inspection from the municipalities that they are licensed in, copies of those that they have sent to me. I think most of them have. As far as some of the vendors participating in the library fair, Hannah's been very forthcoming with providing all the information that we've requested, which we're appreciative of, and certainly Jean's support. The farm at Baptist Common is, I think that's the only one that I see here that does non-TCS foods. Sorry, the spice mix I think is also non-TCS, but as far as the others, there are some mobile food vehicles in here that will need to be inspected, which I will coordinate. I suggest the board move to conditionally approve all of these permits pending past health inspections, either the day of the event or prior if arranged.
Okay. So, does anyone have any questions about any of that? Okay, then do we have a motion, and we can approve these all together, I believe. So do we have a motion to approve food permits for the Library Arts and Crafts Fair on May 10th for Bird's Nest Italian Street Food, Everything Jalapeno and Not, Robin's Spicy Spice Mix, PC Scoops, The Farm at Baptist Common, Trolley Dogs, and Wicked Fruitful. Conditional to inspection of what's the wording again, Tom?
Oh, conformance with all applicable laws.
Yes, but you mentioned inspection of
Oh,
on the day
yes.
of or prior to?
Yes, either or, pending a past health inspection.
Okay. Okay, so conditional to a past health inspection on or before the date of the event, and conditional to compliance with all applicable regulations.
So moved.
Seconded.
Any other discussion? Hearing none?
Steve Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Carol Beardsley, aye. And then, Tom, would you like to address the other two?
And those would be the St. Patrick, St. Linus Catholic
Yes.
community event at Sweet Meadow Farm, which I believe Bird's Nest is also going to be present at, if I'm not mistaken. I know they, in the past, have like a cookout there as well amongst the volunteers with the parish, and we do have a certified person who would oversee that. So if it's going to be based on previous years, I think they should be good to go, coupled with the Bird's Nest braised food truck.
Okay.
And then the other one is for Paisani, mobile food vendor, I think, who is licensed in the town of Woburn. He has provided a most recent inspection to me over email. I've been corresponding with him. I have his menu, his certifications, everything I need to suggest approval pending a past health inspection.
Okay. Okay, so do we have a motion to approve the permit for St. Patrick, St. Linus Catholic Church event for May 18th at Sweet Meadow Farm?
So moved.
Seconded.
I'd like to make a friendly amendment already to my own thing, conditional to compliance with all applicable regulations.
I was thinking that too. Do we have to move it again?
Okay
with
with
the
everyone?
amendment? Do we have to move it again with the amendment?
Sure, why not?
Sure. So moved.
Seconded.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none?
Steve Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Carol Beardsley, aye. And do we have a motion to approve the permit for Paisani mobile food vendor for May 17th at Silverwood, conditional to a past health inspection and conditional to compliance with all applicable regulations?
So moved.
Seconded.
Any further discussion? Hearing none?
Steve Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Darrell Beardsley, aye. And so, Tom, do you expect to see more food permits coming in for the library fair? Or hard
I think
to know?
this might be it. I'm trying to coordinate a Zoom meeting as far as the library fair. I think this might be it, but I'm trying to coordinate a Zoom meeting with management at Silverwood just to kind of get a grasp on upcoming seasonal events. And they've been pretty good, up to date in communicating with us. As you know, licensed caterers are exempt from a permit, if they're bringing food in for immediate service under temperature control under the supervision of a certified food manager, and they have to provide a copy of the permit in the community that they hold that catering license in. However, I did remind Miss Laura Rainey that caterers who bring in whole animal roasts or bring in mobile food vehicles and conduct any other specialized processes would need an additional permit through us. But to date, it seems as though they are licensed caterers. But then she's good about notifying me about the mobile food vehicles who would also need a permit through Sherborn.
Okay, yes, and again, this is even in advance of the 30-day required lead time, so,
Yes,
Good.
which is very, very convenient for us and appreciated.
yeah. All right, anything else on your radar at the moment?
That's it. But thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay. That's some time. Let's see. Actually, Stephen, would you like to discuss the automated tool regarding meeting minutes or
Sure.
other procedures?
So with meeting minutes, how can I say this in a kind way? They're not necessarily tedious, but they are time consuming. And what we're seeing that people are kind of balking a little bit about taking them, editing them, all that. So we wanted to bring up the discussion of using an automated meeting tool to take minutes. And one of the tools that I think I brought it up once before, it's something called Otter. So I spoke with Klaus, and Klaus
Yeah.
had heard of the tool, and he was going to do a little research into it and talked to him last week. And I'm hoping to hear from him this week to see what his thoughts are, because it does require a login so it can get to the actual meeting, the meeting entry in Outlook. So waiting to hear from Klaus to see what he thinks, see if we can kind of try it out. It's not super expensive. You can get the professional version, which will do up to 4 hours per session. And I think you've got, I can't remember how many sessions per month, but there's quite a few, and that costs $20 for the month. And the plan, the thought would be that we could use the tool if it works out, and then someone, the Board of Health administrator would review it, edit it, and then publish it. So that's kind of where we are with that. Do you have any questions?
Is this something that has a trial period?
It has a free
To
trial.
test it out?
Yeah,
Okay,
you can get it for free. Problem is they only let you use it for, I think it might be unlimited number of times, but you use it for a half hour. But hopefully if we could take and use it for one of our meetings for the first half hour, have it create the meeting minutes, and then we could all take a look at it and see if we think it captured it correctly, and then maybe we could move forward. So yeah, we could use the trial period, see if it works. You could use it several times, and if it does, then it might be something we want to move forward with. But again, Klaus said he's going to look at that tool. He's also going to see what else is out there.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
yes.
I'm just, maybe this is a question for Klaus. I don't really know, and maybe you've already, what is the difference between something like, Google transcript, which you can get from any recorded meeting, and this tool? Is it like that?
I guess it's similar to that. Again, it's why I wanted to make sure Klaus had a chance to review it. It's a good question, Rebecca, because this one seems to be one that a lot of people talk about that's out there, but there are other tools. And he also is familiar with the tool that comes with Zoom. Zoom has a tool that does this
Oh, yeah.
as well. So
Yeah.
he kind of wants to review them and see which ones look like they might work best for us.
Right.
that would be a good idea. I mean, it would certainly save, but maybe maybe the rental fee would be higher than hiring a person. I don't know.
Yeah, I think we'll still need someone to review what was captured and also edit it in case it just didn't pick up things correctly.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I think from what I can tell, it should be able to do 75–80% of the work that a meeting minutes taker would do.
That's good. Thank you. Good idea.
It'll also be interesting to see what another piece of software does, because we did try the Zoom AI feature for preparing minutes.
Oh, yeah.
And while they read beautifully, they mixed up topics. So the grammar was impeccable, if you didn't know what went on at the meeting, it might sound plausible, but
Right.
it was humorous in a way.
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
Right.
What it
Like
came
that
up with.
book. Like that book, Eat, Shoots, and Leaves. You familiar with it?
Yeah, and you
No.
gotta also remember that it's not going to, the tool isn't gonna provide context
Right.
around
Right.
some of the things we talk about. It's just gonna take the meeting minutes.
Right.
Which isn't
Right.
necessarily a bad
Right.
thing, because that's what the meeting rules are all about. It's just taking the minutes. And then if we want to do something with enhancing that, well, that could be something that the administrator could do.
Yeah.
Or if it can capture the basics and then the more complicated technical, multi-party discussions that can be tricky for anybody to follow, might be something that we would have to patch and fill in, because I do see that even Zoom, one of their features will often, even though we don't have the AI turned on at the town as a whole doesn't have it turned on at the moment, it will provide a little listing of things that were mentioned as to-do items. So-and-so said that they would do X. So that is captured. There is some ability, and that's useful. And if we can take some of the load off of a minutes taker, then that would be good.
And to clarify too, Steve, what I think you were saying, but might not have said it clearly. My understanding is in your review for administrators, the time and the task of doing the initial draft has been a barrier for applicants. And I certainly have heard, at least for the planning board, at one point in time, I think it was that board that I was listening to. I think at the administrator level, the expectation is that they do the higher level review and edit and then pass it on to the board. And just in terms of the best management of an administrator's time, this certainly makes sense. I'm all for trying another AI tool, and I agree with Daryl. I've seen the Zoom AI version, and I was shocked at how much it jumbled things up to the point where it was not even close to accurate. So I'm always happy to try new tools.
Right. And we have to remember that we should expect these tools to get better as time goes on. Just from the nature of AI getting better as time goes on. So yeah, you're right. And it's not, like you said, it's not just us. There's other boards, other committees that are in the same boat, which is why I'm hoping Klaus can do a really, really good review and make a good recommendation.
Mark has his hand up.
Mark, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. If our past minutes, we were very fortunate. They're very easy to track too, is that if we had, say, for example, an address that was reviewed at several meetings, the previous administrator would put the dates of previous reviews so you could track it, so you would know there was more than one discussion or more than one Board of Health meeting that addressed it. I don't know if this type of technology would know how to do that, but maybe something to keep in mind, that's a very helpful resource when you're reviewing a property and so forth, or a subject that we've been discussing.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Mark. And, something that could kind of point back and say, on such and such a day, we discussed this, and yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there's a tool that could do that, or if that's part of the editing process that the Board of Health Administrator would do.
Probably would be the administrator that would have to do it, unless AI has been improving to do something like that, but I'm
Right,
not for
right,
sure either.
right.
Thank
And
you.
That would require some way of searching all of our files, and I don't
Yes,
think that's,
right.
gonna.
You also, Mark, you also have to remember that it's, I think what we're looking to do is to meet the requirements for meeting minutes, okay? I think there's nice to haves, like being able to point back to other dates, other agendas, but I think that the core of what we're looking to do is to capture those meeting minutes so that we satisfy the rules that are in place.
Yeah, understood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, maybe we'll need a side system for tracking the string of information that's associated with the property, because it is incredibly valuable for current owner occupants to understand the history of their property.
But wouldn't
and
it,
how that
once
might
we have an
affect it.
administrator, they would be familiar with that. So hopefully that would be solved. That problem would be solved just the same way it was with Ellen. She knew the context. She knew, what dates the meetings had been discussed. And maybe if we did a transcript, then the administrator could take that transcript and make a better summary, which includes
Possibly.
those references.
I mean, it was never all in her head. That would be nearly impossible to remember every property and which meetings it was discussed at. There has to be another kind of a way to track that. So, and that could be by searching all of the agendas. Have something that would search all of the files of agendas.
Yeah, there was some way you could kind of scan in all the agendas into the tool and then have the tool make the references going back. I'm not sure if that feature is available, but you can always ask.
Yeah, I can't imagine it being crossed over with this, but you never know.
Yeah,
There might be some other meeting that has to do that sort of thing too. Okay, so we're coming up on 7:25.
Darrell, I was going to ask if I may.
Oh,
The
yeah,
board
go
may
ahead.
want to just proof the Title V, number 2 under your agenda, Title V upgrades to systems and areas subject to nitrogen loading. It will be related to the discussion for 20 Lake Street. So I didn't know if the board wanted just to look at that first or combine that with the review that's scheduled for 7:35.
Given the tight time, I think we really just have to do it
Sure, okay,
combine it with 20.
that's fine. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so it is 7:25, and so I'm going to continue the hearing from the prior meeting on March 19th, I believe is the date. Hold on, verify that.
Yes, it was the 19th.
19th, okay, so March 19th. And this particular discussion, though, Mark, has been withdrawn, correct? This application for the time being?
Yes, the designer for the plan asked that it be withheld and continued at another date. His applicant would like to process everything that has occurred up to this point, including the state and local regulations as it relates to this property and past building applications that were not drawn for the property. So they're in the process of further review on their own end, that being the designer and the owner, and then they will get back to us once they've made a decision.
Okay, unfortunately, I don't have my email open. I thought they actually wanted to withdraw it rather than continue it to a
I
next
can
meeting.
pull that email up, Daryl, if you want.
Yeah, that'd be great.
May I ask
Just
which,
confirm that.
which address, which,
31
property?
Washington.
31 Washington
Oh,
Street?
thank you.
I believe that they have formally retracted their application. The
Mhm.
system is, this is not in failure. This was an elective cesspool replacement for a potential sale. And so they're, because it is not in failure, they're not compelled to move forward, and they are electing to retract.
Yes, that's my recollection, but I don't want to go off of memory. Then we will
now.
close the hearing and wait to see what they come up with in the future.
Eric sent me quite a few emails, so I'm trying to find the one that's related to this. Yeah, it was under Thursday of last week. He had housekeeping, cleaning task, he called it. And for, let's see, he wrote for 31 Washington. He had several items. He had 6 items for 31 Washington Street. He said he would withdrew. This is what he wrote: 31 Washington Street, withdrew her application. I will submit the Form 11s and 12s. That's for the soil testing. So they are on record. So that at this point, that's what he's noted to us on in an email dated April 3rd.
Okay, so given that, I believe that we can close the hearing. And there are no votes to be taken, and we will wait for the homeowner, if they so choose, come back with a plan we've seen or something new. Any other comments or questions on this? Okay. I think I might be able to do at least one of the Charles River Public Health District update. There are 2 items of particular interest. One is that consultants who have been hired by the shared services group have arranged for each town in the shared services to go through a tool that is meant to evaluate the types of services that the towns are providing, and then characteristics of that. Which areas take up what kind of percentage of time, which ones do we feel are being met, a variety of aspects. So that has been, it's being driven from the Department of Public Health, who wants to get a better sense of towns' capacities to meet the demands placed on them for serving the public in the health arena. And so at some point we'll have some kind of analysis that comes out of that to share with you. I just wanted to give you a little insight into one of the activities going on with shared services. And then the other issue, which actually we'll take up after because it is 7:30. And then we could talk further about this service tool if you'd like. But okay, so we have a variance hearing scheduled for 5 Powderhouse Lane for a septic.
And if I can, I would like to update the board on this one as well.
Please.
Yeah, and so we received an email, as noted on the previous subject, for 31 Washington. The email also addressed 5 Powderhouse Lane, and the designer wrote that he's requesting it be continued until he has an official survey of the property, and I ad-libbed the property, but that's what he meant, and can address the comments. And the comments were a review of the septic plan, and comments were sent to the owner as well as to the designer on pending needs. So that's where that one stands at this point.
Okay, and Did they, did we have a sense, shall we just continue it to the next meeting?
I'm
May
not for sure.
7th?
We could, I would say, put it on as an item and
Yeah,
then.
and we could always continue again if we need
Yes.
to, but,
That would
and
work.
the point of that is that they've already notified abutters about the
Yes.
hearing. And so this is a way to continue it to a date and time certain. So let's say, do you know of any other hearings? I forgot to ask
I
Jean if any are
do not,
scheduled for the 7th already.
I don't know of any. I know we have a couple septic plans that are not for coming in as variance hearings. So at this point, I would
Hmm.
think this would be the only one for a variance hearing. There may be 2 additional septic plans coming in after the review is complete for 105 Nason, 109 Nason Hill, and there's one other one that just came in for a review as well. So, but those will not be variance hearings. So this may be the only one that will be a variance hearing that's continued.
Okay. So then we will continue this hearing to May 7th at 7:30 p.m.
Let me make a note. And what was the other time for the other one? Never mind. May 7th at 7:30. Thank you.
Okay. So let's see, back to, since we have now 3 minutes until the next scheduled discussion. Just to let folks know, if you haven't had a chance to meet Gail Varsa, she is the new public health nurse through the shared services arrangement. She's been coming to Sherborn. She's been coordinating some activities with the Council on Aging, with the police and fire departments on various services to folks. Mention that in particular, the fire department has insight into status of health emergencies that might take place within the town. And we're trying to get a sense of needs within the town for different kinds of public health services. And that's one of the advantages of having the public health nurse focusing on Sherborn to look at those items. And to provide more support. And there are more and more programs coming out from the Department of Public Health at the state level, including mental health services are expanding. So.
And she's been doing
She's
great work.
often in town on Thursday, but that's not her only day. She's flexible according to what's going on. Sorry, Julie, go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I couldn't see you to tell if you were done. And I was just going to add, she's also been working with the schools and getting to know the nurse leaders within the schools. And we've gotten great feedback that she's been a valuable resource there as well. So we're very happy to have Gail. That's it.
Okay.
We should have talked for one more minute, Daryl.
I know. Let's see. Did you want to add anything on the service tool? It's such a long and complicated tool that we've been going through.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Answering questions that it's
the only thing I would add, my own notes, the tool that's used was actually designed by the Public Health Accreditation Board, and that is actually a tool that's being used throughout all of the states. And so the part of the end product of this is to have better information for our state legislature about local public health needs. So it is to our advantage to very accurately describe and not overstate what we are able to do, because I think in the long run, it might potentially help funding the future. Okay, that was 1 minute.
Okay, so it is 7:35, and at the March 19th meeting, we had opened this variance hearing for 20 Lake Street regarding septic replacement, and so we are continuing that discussion. Actually, Mark, would you like to just go into, or Rob, maybe Mark, just describe what is still
Sure. So
the
we're
major issue that we have to cover.
sure. On 20 Lake Street, it's on a smaller lot than what would be allowed for a 3-bedroom house, but it is a repair and they're not increasing design flows. So I shared a policy with the board as well as the engineer who's here, Rob Truax, about nitrogen loading, and it's really at the discretion of the board to decide a few things. One that they offer is that being the state, this is a policy they wrote, that the proposed septic system, as you can see, be downhill as a consideration, and that the well be tested to see what the nitrate levels are. The nitrogen loading policy is on the agenda as well. And it was, let's see, dated December 23rd, 1999. The changes to the septic codes was in 1995, and the state provided this policy on how to handle it when it's not new construction. So it's at the discretion of the board. You'll see that on the actual nitrogen policy, it's noted between page 2 and 3, as well as there's some other sections within this that talk about how to handle this when you run into this type of situation, including the best possible system you can have. They talk about, the fact on upgrades, you're always looking to get a goal of full or maximum feasible compliance. That's at the within the first paragraph of the section noted on page 2 as system upgrades in areas subject to nitrogen loading limitations. So, yeah, right in there, you'll see at the base of that first paragraph, it goes over the maximum feasible compliance. This lot, as I said, this is an improvement to the lot. So, whatever they do there will be an improvement from what's existing. But it does talk about other opportunities for the board. At the bottom of this page that you're on, Daryl, it goes into the process when you're right there, right where you have it highlighted. And it goes on to page 3 of what the opportunities are that you can determine. And again, it leaves it at the department staff, which is DEP and the Board of Health, must use their professional judgment to assess the circumstances of the proposed upgrade. And there has been discussion also on the fact that it could be additional land around it that may not be developable, and that could increase the area of not that it's owned by the person, but as not being able to be built on, and increasing nitrogen loading. And I would let the board, the engineers here, Rob Truax, as well as the owner, I saw Laura here as well. So Laura Braun is here, and I'll let the board review this, and thank you for highlighting it, Daryl. If that was you that highlighted it.
Yes. I went through and picked out the ones that talk about the
And the clear cut, it really leaves the board in a
challenge. Yeah.
situation of standard operating procedures. That's the discussion I had with Claire Golden at DEP, as she said, look at what you've done in the past, and the board has looked at other lots. Some of them have been passed through with smaller lots, but not for new construction or an additional bedroom. Rob mentioned one of them at 26 Farm Road, I believe, at the last meeting. But on other properties, the board has addressed nitrogen loading, and it's all dependent on how much land and what can be done within that land. So I don't know what you would like to do at this point, Daryl, but it is for discussion.
Yeah, so I'll just note for people who may not have been at the last meeting. So this lot is roughly 0.33 acres. And excuse me, so that amount of acreage would support, according to the formulas in Title V, 1.3 bedrooms. And then there are ways to increase what one can do by using a system that provides advanced treatment, but the advanced treatment is really only for nitrogen concentration. So it's not the be all and end all, that it's not the only contaminant of concern. It's an important one, but it is not the only one. So there are a variety of ways, you know, besides having a different technology that provides more treatment of the wastewater effluent. There's also the option to purchase land, which is not, you know, always possible in every situation. There is a way to get credit on adjacent land, but that requires some kind of negotiation with the landowner. In this case, this does abut town land that is consists of a lot of wetlands and stretches pretty much from behind the property on Lake Street over to the DPW garage on Butler. Roughly, it's an irregular shape. So that would be something, but that could take, I would assume, over a year to even investigate that, and maybe have to go to the town meeting for a vote. And the driver for all of this is that, and I think this was mentioned, let's see, I did highlight somewhere else where this is, I thought, reasonably explained, yeah. So they're concerned about the loading for certain situations, and it's when you've got septic and well on the same property and the risk to elevating concentrations of contaminants in the groundwater. And so residential lot supplies to us, they're always concerned about public water supplies being similarly impacted. And they've been looking more, this says at that time, embayments, not so much, but that has been a big issue on Cape Cod of late, where they actually have additional regulations specifically for Cape Cod at the moment.
Also in Sherborn have evidence from the Groundwater Protection Commission that we are having elevated nitrates as well. And it's also being seen across the state. So it's not just on Cape.
I understand that it's more severe.
No, I'm just saying for the information of the homeowner.
Yeah. Yes. So in any case, it becomes, what kind of requirements do we have for this? I've received information from the assessors department on lot sizes that are less than an acre, just to understand that how whatever decision we make here might affect other properties. That information right now isn't easy to sort through because it's a PDF that I was not able to import the data into a spreadsheet just yet. So I'm going to try some other approaches to that at some point for evaluating. But we could start talking about things such as what it means to require this. As Mark said, we have kind of a variable history on how properties have been managed in the past, with definitely some that have pursued the alternative treatment technologies, provide better cleansing of the effluent. Whether that's driven more by the homeowner in the past or occasional oversights, I really am not sure if we could even find all the files easily to look at how those decisions were made at the time. Because we do like to stay consistent, but we also want to be effective.
Rob, I actually have a question for Rob. Rob, I think you had mentioned this at the last meeting, but I wanted to clarify. I recall that you had mentioned that the well has been tested recently at this property. Is that right?
No, we did. No, that's not us.
That's not you? Okay.
No, that must have been someone else. No, we haven't tested it recently.
Okay. Daryl, are you looking for the board to start weighing in?
Yes. I mean, I have, yes, I think I can save my other comments for after other people have a chance to
I didn't mean to
raise
interrupt.
issues. Talk about the policy. If you want me to go in a particular spot, let me know and I'll move for that.
I was not at the last meeting because of a family emergency that did this, because this homeowner has the risk of endangering her own or their own drinking water, have they considered just putting in a septic system that's big enough for more bedrooms?
No,
No.
Rebecca, the plan, Rebecca, the plan is in the, was in both this meetings folder and the recent meetings folder, March, I'm sorry, I'm a little off today. So they have already received variances. There was a variance hearing of which all of the variances that were requested were approved. The plan has not been approved because we were discussing the reduction in nitrogen as one of the considerations. This is actually an IA technology. They're using Elgin for this system, partially to fit it, partially because of the groundwater clearance. So they've actually gone through it, and it might be helpful then for me to just give you a quick overview, Rebecca. So the well is currently in the basement of the house. Rob, please chime in and tell me if
I
I missed
will. You're doing great.
So the well is currently in the basement of the house. The house has an existing cesspool that is up gradient to the on-site well as well as up gradient to the abutting well. The current cesspool is less than 100 feet. I don't see it marked out here on the plan. What is being proposed is the
cesspool,
system.
if I can interject, Julie,
Yeah.
is over. It's a little circle. If you look from the septic tank down, there's a
Yeah.
circle.
The end where the tank is.
Yeah,
It
very
just
close.
doesn't have the distance from the well called out, but that's not actually. It's clearly up gradient to the on-site well, and it looks like via the topography, it is up gradient to the abutter as well. So what's being proposed is the Elgin system, which moves the treatment for this home to both a down gradient position to the on-site well as to the abutter's well. So that is a market improvement that it's being moved to down gradient. This is also going to have a far more enhanced treatment, even though it is not specific to treating an enhanced nitrogen removal system. So Elgin does a lot of stuff, including enhanced biotreatment, but it's not specific. It is not approved for nitrogen reduction. Does that help?
Yes, except for the
Okay.
fact that I mean, we're talking about Title V, but Sherborn has private well systems which lead to private water supplies, which have no protection, both for this homeowner and their butters. And it doesn't answer the question if we just put in a septic system that has the capacity of the home, then
Well,
it solves everything. We don't need any variances.
well, it matters because it's costly.
Yeah, but I understand, but it's more costly if your water is.
Well, but you know what? No, you know what? I'm a stage 3 cancer survivor. I've lived in this home for 18 years, and I can guarantee you, if there was something wrong with this water, my cancer would have returned in a bullet.
No, but it's not going to be until you add more capacity that's the future that leads to the contamination, and it's the situation that has the potential to affect your neighbor or your future homeowner after you're gone.
Yeah, but no. Sorry, but
Can I
no.
speak for a minute, Madam Chair?
Absolutely,
speak?
because
I think Rebecca,
a misunderstanding, I think.
right, there's no increased capacity being proposed for the site. It's a 3-bedroom house. It's working on a failed system that's upgrading from the existing wells now. We're not trying to increase flow. We're just trying to upgrade what's there. So it's a 3-bedroom
So is it
house.
moving from a 3-bedroom to a 3-bedroom?
It's staying as a 3-bedroom, correct?
Oh, so that's what I misunderstood because I thought it was an addition.
No, if we were increasing the flow, we would be required by Title V to put in nitrogen removal.
Yeah, I see. Thank you.
So, correct, okay. Yeah, I think that's what you were missing. It's not an increase.
Yeah, and I just didn't, and I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm just trying to focus on public health, and it's easy to underestimate risks, and I just don't want you to have any danger because your health needs might be increased.
Correct.
Your cancer. So that's.
but I'm well aware, like I mean, my health is most important to myself and my family, not to, um, I don't even know what to
So when,
say.
I mean, now I understand the situation, but I want to, I mean, if you had elevated nitrates, what you would not have any symptoms, but you would have an increased risk of a myocardial infarction or a pulmonary, like something happening from decreased oxygen, you wouldn't even know. It's
Yeah, but-
like blue baby syndrome when you have excess nitrogen. That's the problem with nitrogen loading. That's the problem with it. It's dangerous, and you don't have symptoms until after it's too late.
Correct.
Okay, because this is so complicated, I'm going to interject now some possibilities. Even though we can go back and discuss the basics, maybe just as a way to see if we can get to something that's workable. So in the, so we have variable methods of approaching this because we haven't seen this a lot in town, and there's been some variability, again, for various reasons, some unknown. This happens to abut land that is owned by the town. I do not know if there are any restrictions on whether it could ever be developed. It may have been land that was donated. It may be wetlands throughout. There are wetlands present, and there are streams, and there's setbacks to those streams. There may be a vernal pool, but I don't know what its opportunity is for development. But it still stands that at the moment, this is the property line, but stretching for quite some distance down here is land that is undeveloped. So whether one went through the formal process of getting an easement onto that land that said another, let's see, if it's 0.3 of an acre, it needs about another 0.42 acres to get to having 3/4 of an acre that would be required under Title V for nitrogen sensitive areas to support 3 bedrooms. So whether one could say that informally or formally, credit could be taken from that land, but in a way that opens up a lot of people abut public lands in town, and that just seems like it would turn into an administrative.
And it's also very costly
challenge.
in fees.
Yeah.
And I don't,
So,
that needs to be
and-
considered as well.
And there's clearly an improvement being done by this system, and we're not supposed to really take financial challenges into consideration, but it is an issue.
And Daryl,
Well,
if you
I
keep
think
moving,
one other thing that might be an option is having a deed restriction, registered, so that future owners would understand the situation that they're buying into, and may be inspired to test their well more frequently, for example. And they would understand that adding another room to the house would be extraordinarily difficult. So that might be another way where you're educating future homeowners about this. And it might also lead to a different approach to more care in taking care of the septic system, for example, to ensure that it functions well. Given the proximity, this is not a lot of distance, 59 feet from the system to the house. Mark, you had something?
I was just going to add, Daryl, that on this plan, there is a locust plan up to the upper right to show the land nearby as well. But your suggestion on that deed recording is well taken by me, because it really is about the next homeowner as well as the present homeowner to understand what you have.
So there will be two deed restrictions, two recordings under the approvals that you already made. One is for the alternative system, and the other will be for no garbage disposal. I don't think there'd be any issue with putting a third one in place that just talks about the fact that the lot is approved for a 3-bedroom house. I don't even know how we'd write that up, to be honest. I guess we'd have to come up with some language, Mark. But something to
Yeah,
the
we would
effect
have
that
to come
tells
up with
them it's
something
in,
new.
Yeah,
it's in a nitrogen sensitive area due to the restriction of the lot size. At the homeowner's discretion, they could have their well tested on a
Yeah.
periodic period or something, periodically, however how you want to word it.
yeah, and the bedroom
Yeah.
count is limited based on the acreage at the
Correct.
time to being no more than the 3 bedrooms that exist presently.
Correct. Even with nitrogen
and-
removal, they couldn't get a 4th bedroom.
Correct.
Because the nitrogen removal only gives you one additional above the square footage that you'd be required to have. So if you had a 1-acre lot, just so people understand, 40,000 square feet, you wanted to build a new home, and you want to do 5 bedrooms, you're allowed to go one above the 40,000 with nitrogen removal. With no nitrogen removal, you'd have to have 40,000 square feet, 10,000 for each bedroom. You only would get one additional. You couldn't put even something more enhanced to get 2 additional.
That is correct. Yeah. And there may be the opportunity when this is completed that the homeowner who's here, she may want to look into seeing if and from the town. I'm not for sure on that, but that's a possibility if they ever want to go to an additional bedroom.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Mark. Could you
Yeah.
repeat that?
Yeah, I was just saying you may want to seek counsel with the town or contact the town and see if any of the land around you might be an opportunity to obtain through a purchase if you ever wanted to go to 4 bedrooms.
Oh,
You know,
Yeah.
it will help resolve this issue too, but that would be something that you would deal with if it's town-owned land. Rob, do you know offhand if this? That's why I drew us to the.
I think that DPW garage is on this parcel on the other side.
Yeah,
Okay, so this is
it's
town.
over here, and
Yeah.
it is town-owned, but again, Mark, sometimes these are donated, and
Okay.
people didn't
Yeah, the
donate it.
highway
with the
garage is on
idea
that
of it
parcel.
being sold off, so
Okay.
that's just a really complicated.
It's
Yeah,
very
possible, but
difficult to
complicated.
purchase town land.
Okay, then.
Yeah.
You usually need to do
Wrong.
a land swap.
Okay.
And
Very
there's nothing to
difficult to
swap.
get that purchased through.
Yeah,
Okay, then that's an
So-
idea we'll put aside. Sorry.
yeah.
it was a good thought, though.
I don't
Mark.
want to commit the town to anything that we can't
Yeah.
verify would be feasible, so.
I think a
Um,
deed, putting a something, not a deed restriction, I guess it is a restriction, I guess it's a deed recording, something on their deed, a recording that talks about the nitrogen levels, I don't know how we would word it. And that the lot's
Yeah, we
restricted
just have
to,
to find it
the
so it's.
I'm sure we could come up with
communicates
some
easily.
language between myself and Mark. And
We
maybe,
don't even know if there is nitrogen.
Well, that's the other thing. You're correct, Laura, and you may want to have your well tested to see if there's any nitrogen that's being created from the present situation.
It's not a question of whether it's present now. It is for the concerns for the people who are consuming that water, but this is still a general principle under Title V of not overloading the land, because even if it hasn't shown up yet, it is going somewhere. Throughout town, we do see elevated levels of nitrogen, even in places that are downtown areas, certainly, which is a little more compact, but there are other areas of town that also have levels that are clearly the result of septic impact. So there's no hiding from it.
Right.
So it's just the state level precautionary approach.
I understand, but the state Title V also says that these regulations are for new builds only. This is
Yes.
not, this house has been here. This house has been here since the 1930s. It was moved here. It's the original train station of the town, and it was moved here. The land behind me is town forest. I do not think that can be purchased. I think that would require an act of Congress. You know, and I'm not willing to take that on.
And we're not trying to pursue that. So, and we recognize the reason that this, even under Title V, that we can consider some of these other things is that they recognize that things were done in the past, regulations have changed. So things are given some kind of accommodation, being grandfathered, grandmothered in. And so that's what we're trying to wrestle with, but not, let's see, so people don't use leaded paint anymore, but it was permitted, but it's really not a great idea, you know? So we have to strike some kind of balance.
Exactly.
About what happened in the past and as we move ahead. And so right now I'm feeling inclined to looking at educating future owners about, because not that it would happen here, but there's certainly lots of people you move out of the city, you see all this land, you think you can make the house bigger without any trouble, and just to alert them to what the issues really are here.
I agree. And I was alerted when I bought it, and I've loved it. I've loved it. You know, any broker, you know, worth anything will make that very clear, that you cannot do anything other than what is here. And that, you know, that's what I loved about it. I built a house in Sherborn. I built a house on the pond. I lived in a magnificent, huge house on the other side of the town. I have no interest in, you know, building. And I think that's reasonable and sound to, you know, make it clear to any potential new owner that what you see is what you get. And, you know, take it or leave it. I mean, I'm not, you know, I don't have a problem with that. I have a real problem with having to invest substantial amounts of money when, to be honest with you, everything is working fine here. There's never been a problem. The water is, I'm sorry, I know that this doesn't meet with your science, but the water is impeccable. I have no complaints in this house. You know, I don't like having to do a new septic. I'm not entirely convinced it's the right thing to do, but I understand. I've lived in the community for 33 years. I have no interest in harming any portion of this town. But I also, at the same time, I don't really think we need to, you know, cost homeowners such substantial amounts of money when they are, you know, going to sell their primary asset. I'm 64 years old. I mean, I can't, you know, I don't have an extra $25,000 to, you know, make the town happy when I feel that I've already invested substantial amounts of money with Rob. I've have to tear down a shed that I had built. I paid $5,000 for it. You know, at some point, there's got to be an end line. And you know, I'm sorry that this is very difficult, but I don't understand. I mean, I know safety. I know health is primary. But you know, I'm lacking. This just doesn't seem to be any credible. I don't know. I clearly am frustrated, and I just don't get it.
You know,
I understand your frustration. I will say that it's a challenging thing. It's not like an urban area that has municipal water and sewer, so these issues disappear under those circumstances. But those kind of, as areas get denser, they don't have well and septic because it doesn't work in the long term. So I guess that's part of what the state Title V is about, is ensuring that it doesn't get to the point where we render our shared water supply undrinkable, and then people are spending a lot of money to put on treatment for the water. So, you know, at some point the costs come out and affect others. So we're just trying to find some kind of balance here, and that's not so simple because every case is a little bit different. Right, long-term home, small property, abut some open space. It's just, what if it didn't abut open space? Would we treat it differently? So I'd like to hear more from other board members though, too.
Can I ask
Because
a
this is,
question now that you're done? When you bought the house, I don't know how many years you've lived there, were there any water tests done at that time? Do you know?
Yes,
Um,
I don't know the numbers, but I know that it passed. It
Yeah.
was,
That-
and it was mandated. I don't know, apparently it's not mandated. Apparently sellers don't have to have their water tested before they put their home on the market. I was surprised to hear that because I did have it tested when I bought the house and I was made to. I don't know if, my broker said, maybe you should get the water. I don't know. I just know that I did it. And I remember doing it because they spilled the first sample. So we had to do the whole thing again. And that was ridiculous, but the water itself was pristine.
and that's this house,
That's this house, yes.
not your previous house. You built.
Nope.
Well, that's good. Do we have, how long ago was that? Because the Board of Health should have copies, shouldn't we?
I don't know about that. It was when I bought the house 17 years ago.
17
18
But
18
Mark,
years.
would there be a record of that?
There is a record if they submitted it to the Board of Health. They're not required to if it's a transaction with private parties. So if they decided to test but not submit, that could be the most likely possibility.
And it's 17 years. That's longer. Yeah.
But I don't, the thing that I want to point out is the house next door to me isn't getting any larger. She just put in a whole new septic system too. Her backyard is all taken up. I think every ounce of her land, I don't think she can even, make it larger. To the right of me is Obed Lane. Nobody's building on Obed Lane. To the right of that is the property of the people, I don't know the number, but their house is set way back and that's all wet. There's no way anyone's building on that property. It's wet in 90-degree weather. So this stretch of the street is pretty much landlocked. Not entirely. I mean, don't quote me, but I know this stretch, my side of the street is pretty much done.
Yeah. I wonder if it would have any value to just test your water. I know it's another cost, so I apologize.
But that's not a huge cost.
Rebecca, that's not really that's a momentary thing. We're trying to look at a longer term, big picture. That's what the Title V is geared for, the long term. So it's not bad to test.
Right.
Certainly advisable to test.
Right.
But this point in time is not going to be.
It may have even been.
We don't know what the impact.
Well, it helps us to know whether it's a justifiable, risk to consider a variance, because if your water is clean, then it's less likely that we're taking a bigger risk. But if there's nitrogen in it, then it might not be beneficial on one side, but on the other side, it helps the board evaluate public health risk.
But Rebecca, we're not testing
this from. Oh, sorry, Julie, were you talking? I just wanted to say.
Yes, I was. I'm sorry.
Julie, Diana.
I am not using my hand
to weigh in.
But if someone else had actually raised their hand, I defer to you to go first because I am not using good decorum. My apologies to the rest of my board. What I wanted to say to Rebecca was, do you have your hand raised, Diana? Okay, then I will make one comment to Rebecca. And then
my thought was, this is such a tiny lot, then the Elgis system will be a good improvement from what we currently have. And it looks like it's next to another tiny lot, as Laura pointed out to us. And if it abuts town land, that doesn't sound buildable in the future.
Exactly.
I think the issue is that because it's wet, it doesn't help the septic like it doesn't help getting rid of the nitrates. They just remain in the water. That's the problem
The
with
whole-
building in
Isn't,
wetlands.
isn't the whole town wet? I mean, if we really stop and think, the town is wet. I mean, half of the homes should never have been built anyway. They're crooked. The whole town is wet.
But that's the reason that there are efforts being made to improve the risks that were taken in the past so that it protects the quality of the drinking water, because it would be a tragedy if the whole town has undrinkable water and then we're forced to build sewer infrastructure, which will be extremely costly for the whole town. And, you know, there are a lot of implications.
Okay, so back, Diana, if you
Yes,
want
well,
to
this is
finish.
where I was thinking that because it abuts town land, it's almost as if Laura has an extra acre or two there without buying it. Do we know if that town land is like not buildable? It sounds like it's forest, which
It
is
is.
great. That's, no one's there.
Right. And between my house and the DPW, I think it's the Bay Path Trail. Is that what it's called? The Bay State Rail, it's a trail.
So
And
it's
I
not
don't,
buildable then.
right, it's not. And the I don't know if it was the Cub Scouts or the Boy Scouts trying to get their, you know, their last, you know, the big badge or whatever, they built a bridge for bikes because it gets very wet and muddy back there. So there's just no building. It's not happening here. And again, that was the beauty of it for me. I was done with the big houses by the time I got here. It was simple and lovely and charming and beautiful, and there's no threat. I'm not threatened by like any big monster going behind me, any big McMansion or anything like that. And I've loved that.
Okay, Steve? Diana, are you finished or?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
So your
Yeah,
hand
I
down,
guess-
so, okay, Stephen.
I guess my take on it is, it's a cesspool that's being replaced. So replacing it with an Elgin system is 100% better. I think that combined with maybe some kind of a deed restriction that says it's limited to 3 bedrooms, to help protect any purchases in the future and also let them know that here's what's going on. I think it seems reasonable to me. Again, I'm not sure how on the other side of the property on town land, how high the water level is there, or if that's even a factor, but just looking at it, it seems to me that it's what's being proposed is much more of an improvement. Also, the fact that the well is inside the house tells me that it's probably less susceptible to some kind of water runoff or, you know, oil or something like that, like from a driveway getting into it. So I think that kind of helps the situation as well.
And the just so you know, the town forest behind me is lower than the house.
Right.
Okay, Julie?
I finally raised my hand and did it right.
I didn't know I was supposed to raise my hand. I'm sorry. This is my first ever Zoom meeting, if you can believe that. I'm sorry.
That's okay. We try to have some basic decorum just so that way things
So
don't
sorry.
get out of hand.
I'm sorry.
So when I look at this, I mean, I think my inherent issue is that we have not had a consistent pattern for how we have treated pre-existing homes when the lot is smaller than the bedroom count will not support the bedroom count that exists on the house. I wish that we had had a consistent practice. I wish we had had a policy 10 years ago, because then we could all refer to that and not have to make a decision now. But when I look at this parcel, Daryl, could you go back to the locus at least? I'm looking at this on GIS myself, just so I have a bigger view, but that will at least allow us all something to look at. When I try to think about what are the protective factors for this particular home as well as for this neighborhood, because too, what I think both Daryl and Rebecca have been saying is this might be one parcel with one owner, but we're all contributing to the same groundwater recharge through our septic systems. And so how can we collectively be protective of each other? And so I've gone through each of the parcels within, you know, about a quarter of a mile of this, and all of them meet. This is the only one that is less than 1 acre within this immediate area. And so the zone here is a 1 acre zone. And so that in itself is a protective factor because hopefully, you know, nobody has a 6-bedroom house on a 1 acre lot. And if they do, hopefully they do have a nitrogen reducing system. So I think that contributes. If this house was one of 20 homes that were under a half of an acre lot, all collected together, I would very likely look at this differently because it would be a neighborhood approach to reducing the nitrates that are entering the groundwater as a result. In terms of, I know Rebecca had made a mention of the well testing. I would love to test your well 10 years from now, have that result known to us now, and then we could make this decision very easily. But that's obviously not going to happen. And so, you know, we have not called out if there are any abutters that are here. I'm sorry, I have not gone through, but certainly if there are abutters to this property and you have concerns about known contamination in your well, please speak up. But otherwise, what I would say is, you know, there is a market improvement, as Steve had noted, is that this system is being moved down gradient to both the on-site well as well as the abutters well. It's almost cross gradient to the abutters well. It's barely down gradient, but certainly an improvement. And then the LGen technology, again, is going to be a far more robust technology for treatment compared to if a stone entrenched system was being proposed for this lot. And so I think with that adds an extra layer of protection, not as good as if this was actually a nitrogen reducing technology, but certainly improved. And finally, this is not within, going back to the guidance that Mark very kindly pulled out for us. And kind of the recommendations that DEP makes to local boards as we consider whether or not to require nitrogen reducing technology here. This is not within the zone 2 of any well. And so again, if this was near a public water supply, perhaps closer to downtown, that would be potentially a different perspective that we would take. To my knowledge, please correct me someone if I'm grossly wrong, there is not a zone 2 that this parcel touches. Does anyone disagree with that? That was my assessment. And so I think that in combination is protective. So kind of, that was my zoom out kind of look at this. I don't feel comfortable. I certainly don't feel comfortable making any homeowner go through the process of an easement or forcing them to purchase additional land. I think that is an overreach and inappropriate for us to do. I think that we also have to be careful if we acknowledge that, well, if you happen to abut conservation land, that allows you to get away with a little bit more. But people who don't abut conservation land, well, guess what? Too bad, you don't get to have a little extra. So I think that's not really the perspective that I would take. Instead, it would be that whole neighborhood perspective, which is, it's not just the undeveloped land, but is what is the state of potential nitrogen loading of the other developed parcels. And in my assessment, it looks like this is a pretty good situation, and it really looks like this is the smallest parcel within this immediate area. So I think in this situation, I would feel comfortable approving the plan as it's proposed and not requiring the nitrogen reducing technology.
Thank you.
Okay. And I'll just circle back and say, I agree with pretty much everyone else that this is a dramatic improvement over the cesspool that is there now. So that's a step in the right direction. There is the whole grandfathering. It is a repair that is called out specifically under Title V. As the goal is to make improvements to things, and this is a clear improvement. I don't want to rely too much, even though it is clearly there. There's open space. But we don't know really what the future is going to bring within the 50-year lifespan or whatever of this septic system, and which changes may come about. And we have open space throughout the town. And I think to rely too heavily on that is going to create a precedent that I would not want to have to deal with constantly, because it will just be too difficult, I think, and too difficult, I think, for the town to have that. And then the other piece is there are not a lot of studies that get done on density of septics and their impact on groundwater. But one I found years ago, probably a decade or so ago, was out in Oregon. They were evaluating around the state to try to identify how many septic systems in a square mile led to issues with groundwater. And they came up with a number of about 200 people, so systems serving 200 people, that led to increased nitrogen in a relatively short period of time. That could have been, I can't remember, it was a decade or two, but we have over 200 people per square mile in Sherborn, something like 216-ish. And in Oregon, they had something like 100 or 200 feet of soil before groundwater was encountered. So there was a lot of filtering capacity there going on first. So I want to remind that's the big picture. Groundwater moves. So even if we look at it neighborhood by neighborhood, who knows, X number of years, it depends on travel time. All those things are very complicated to assess and determine. So we only have these really gross measurements and the very few studies that get done because it's too costly to do it everywhere. So, and then I want to go back to then the deed recording that alerts future homeowners, because we see too many people who are disappointed to learn that, they couldn't do with the property what they expected because not everyone is familiar with the well and septic co-location issues. So I'd rather rely on the big improvement now. It is a repair, and informing future owners. Are there any abutters or anyone else in town who wants to weigh in on this or in the meeting? Nobody? Does anyone on the board want to make any last comments or propose a motion?
I would support the deed recording about the limitations of expanding this home. And if we could include suggested language that it is advised that this well be tested, I don't know, every 3 years. just a basic panel that would include total nitrogen. Of course, it'd be great if they wanted to do PFAS and all the rest, but that I would absolutely support that as if this is an educational piece to future owners.
How do people feel about a fixed number of years as opposed to advise frequent testing? And what if 3's too long? Or
But who's to say that everybody's going to
fairly
do?
short?
We're not requiring, that's a good question, Laura. It is not a requirement. It would be a guide. I agree, Daryl. I mean, ideally it would be every year, but that is costly. And I think that the challenge is if there is someone who does not have the experience of owning a private well and you tell them, test your well frequently, they might think 6 months, they might think 5 years, they might think anything in between. Like why would they know any differently? And so that's why kind of a best practice recommendation, again, not a have to, it's a get to, then that would be what we would be writing here. So that's why, Daryl, I would suggest actually giving a guideline for a time frame that would be recommended to test.
And
then in terms of recommending what to test, nitrogen's a marker, so that's helpful because it tells you if there's septic impact. It's not the only thing that can come out of a septic system. So then that starts getting into a very complicated area. So I don't know that I'd want to write how much do we include here, and the deed recording stands for a long time. So even if we put, a link to a website that talked about the importance of testing and what one should test and recommended frequencies, that may disappear in 10 years or something. So I think I would like the opportunity to think about the wording better, because people will latch onto it, which is good and risky at the same time.
Yeah, and I guess
we're providing.
I'm sorry, I can't figure out how to raise my hand.
I can't either, and I'm so sorry. I don't see any little icon. I don't know what to do.
My software
You can raise your real hand and since
Oh.
you're on camera.
See, like that never entered my mind.
So,
I
okay,
told you that I
Rebecca.
Yeah. So I wanted to kind of paraphrase what Daryl said, because we as a board are in this really difficult situation where if we say, sure, no problem, because we want to help you and we understand your situation, it's really stuck, we're stuck. That sets a precedent for the future. And this is what Daryl was saying, because our job is supposed to be to just focus on public health. And if we were doing that, then we'd say, well, you need to put in this nitrogen, this special modern system that's way more costly than what, as we had mentioned previously. So it's difficult because we don't want to be insensitive to your finances. It's already bad enough that you have to replace your system because it failed. You didn't, this bad luck and more bad luck. And so that's the challenge that we're in, why the decision is so difficult. And hopefully you're going to be living there for a while. Are you selling, or are you just doing this because it failed?
I don't know. I am weighing my options. The latest market crash, and one day I am, one day I'm not. I'm just going forward with this process.
Well, it doesn't matter. I mean, if you were just replacing it because your septic system fails, it would benefit you. And it's
that's
clear
not
to
allowed
us
anymore.
this is an improvement. No, I'm saying it's clear to us that this is an improvement for what you have, but we still are supposed to follow the guidelines because nitrogen is one of these tricky things that is dangerous to you, but also to everyone else, because it binds your red blood cells, and then you don't have symptoms. You just have a medical problem, and then you discover why. And so that's the main thing we're supposed to be protecting the town and you from. That's why it's difficult.
Okay. Are there any other folks who want to comment? Otherwise, timing-wise, both Laura and Rob, in terms of moving ahead, let's say we want to carefully craft this deed recording, which will take a little bit longer than, and I don't know that, I don't do my best work late at night, more of an early morning person. It's nice to check on a few references for things or something on this. So does anyone else think that we could actually come up with the exact language tonight? Do we want to defer that, and do we want to do it where Mark and Rob take a stab at something, or then circle back to board approval, authorize a working group to look at it? Or is this something that if it took until our May 7th, which is our next scheduled meeting, to finalize that you wouldn't have the plan released before then. I don't know if you're planning to start immediately, what the timeline is. I don't want to interfere with that too much. Mark?
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe Rob and I can take a look at it, as well as I can reach out to Claire Golden, our representative for Title V, and see if there's any draft language for such a deed recording. And we can work on it together and bring it back to the board for your final review.
Mhm.
Mostly,
Okay,
is there a
so,
DEP backed way for us to give variances that isn't going to kill us going forward with precedent?
But wait, I'm raising my hand.
yeah,
I am uncomfortable with that simply because, you know, time is always moving forward and there are always new improvements and the latest and the greatest technologies that in 20 years, this system is going to be obsolete. And, you know, in 50 years, forget it. I'm hesitant. And of course, I don't have a say here. But we have the latest and the greatest information before us right now. We're not in the future. And of course, we have to protect those around us, ourselves, the pets, the wildlife, vernal pools, everything. But I'm uncomfortable that we need to put something in writing for 50 years down the road. You know, it seems very unsound to me. I'm just not comfortable with that because things are always changing, especially now with technology. I mean, I don't even know how to use Zoom because the last time I had to go to a Board of Health meeting, Zoom wasn't a thing. I think we need to be careful with that as well. Every process, every property in this town, because of, you know, how this house ended up on this site, I'll never know. There's very little information about how it got here.
well,
Clearly.
that's kind of what we're talking about is we want to give notice to future homeowners of what they're buying into. I don't want to make it more complicated than it needs to be, but gives enough direction. And I agree with you that who knows what the constituent of the day will be that they need to be testing for in the future. So I don't know. So that's what I'm wrestling with. I think we're all on the concept of some kind of recording has to go on, just noting the unusual circumstances of this particular thing, like the septic system is already larger than what state regulations would permit. That has to be in there. And whether or not we provide some kind of, but even the wording of that, because we haven't bumped up into this before. So we have a lot of examples of deed recordings. We don't have one for this. So the question is, and Rob, maybe you have a better sense of, like, would you be starting construction as soon as possible?
Sure.
If the plan was released?
So what happens, these guys won't put us on their schedule till we have an approved plan. So we're not going to get construction done before May if you approve it tonight. But if you don't approve it tonight, then we're not going to get construction done until August.
Okay.
So they won't even put us on this. They're not gonna, they say, when your plan gets approved, let me know, and then we'll get you on the schedule. Because they put us on the schedule, and let's say it doesn't happen May 7th, we screw their schedule up. So they won't even put us on the schedule. So I think we can come up with a deed restriction, personally. We do deed restrictions all the time for bedroom counts. I've done them, we just did one for a different reason, but we've done deed restrictions for bedroom counts. This is probably not much different. We just need to add a little bit of language about the nitrogen loading. We can use pretty much probably the same boilerplate deed restrictions that we do for a bedroom count and just add something in there about the nitrogen loading. I don't think it needs to be much more than that. And we can put something in about recommending that the well be tested every 3 years. I did just look something up online and it said for nitrates, you should test every 5 to 10 years. If you should test every 5. If the levels are low, you can go to 10.
I think
Versus-
I'd be happy with even something that said, and the circumstances of this lot warrant more frequent
Yeah, I mean,
testing of the,
I mean,
and leave it at that, and just
that's all.
not
Something to that
take it
effect,
by
and we can
years.
just add that language to we're not gonna find a
So-
deed recording for nitrogen loading, I don't
Is
think.
that,
Okay, so what we have often done for other properties, when we've had to craft a brand new kind of, or somewhat new deed recording, is we would indicate that there needs to be a deed recording noting X, and then the exact wording gets worked out in the next couple of days to a week, and then you can move ahead with filing that. Does that sound like a workable approach to people to take for this project?
Yeah.
And
So
board
you
members?
would that be a
Yeah, go ahead.
conditional approval tonight? You approve it condition upon a deed recording?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I'm trying to see if we can move towards, so that you can get to the next step of saying.
right. I would think that would be
Approved plan.
reasonable.
You still have to do the deed recording, and that's going to be a little delayed, but you would have conditionally approved plan at least.
Right.
So, Mark, did you have any comment on that? How this fits in with other things we've done? Yeah, you're muted for some reason. I don't know if I can unmute you.
He raised his hand, but he can't unmute.
Yeah, no, I'm
Ah,
unmuted
now he's
now.
unmuted.
I was doing a little research myself on Title V and I pulled up some language. So again, it's something that Rob brought up a very good point that we can look at our bedroom restriction and note the recommendation for testing of the well. And I just was drawing some language out of the state DEP's Title V programs. So I think that all would work out well, and I could pass it by
Yeah.
the chair and vice chair to make sure the substance of what's being discussed tonight was addressed within the deed recording, and if so, then that can be drafted and put on a deed recording and go along with the garbage grinder deed recording and the other recording for the use of alternative technology, and then recorded. Once recorded, then the plan could be released. So those would be the steps, just to help the homeowner
Yeah.
understand the process that goes on. The board has approved septic plans prior with deed recordings. The only problem is we don't have an actual format for this one, but I think it can easily be completed. So I would suggest that.
Right, and what Ellen and I worked on, a handful of these in the past, where post-meeting, we would kind of hammer out the language, share it with the applicant, see if there were any further comments, and then move forward. So
I think that would be
all right. So other board members, any comments on that before we make a motion on this plan approval?
It sounds like a good plan.
All right. So do we have a motion to, so the plans are ready for approval, right, Mark?
That is
Otherwise?
correct. They are ready for
Okay.
approval, conditional to the board, putting in those conditions.
Okay. So do we have a motion to approve the plans conditional to receipt of deed recordings regarding garbage grinder restriction, use of innovative alternative technology, and the nitrogen loading circumstances of this lot?
Yeah.
That works.
Recommendation of water testing, was that part of it as well, or no?
That'll be within the restriction.
Yeah, within the nitrogen loading restriction
Got it.
umbrella.
Okay.
So moved.
Seconded.
Any further discussion? Hearing none?
Steve Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Daryl Beardsley, aye. And so thank you, Laura and Rob, for bringing this very thought-provoking issue, and congratulations for also, thank you for upgrading
Right.
the system.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Repairing
Can I just say real fast, I am so sorry I didn't
Yep.
raise my hand. I didn't know. I just was trying to speak when somebody else wasn't. I didn't know that I had to do that. I'm terribly sorry about
No,
that.
no, don't worry about it. I'm not, only if things get complicated, we have to, get more formal, but I'm not the most formal of.
Laura, if
Okay.
you look, there's a little heart at the center of the bottom of your screen. If you have the same screen, that's where you can find raise your hand, and lots of other.
Oh, emojis.
Yes, it's there under the emojis.
Okay, so here's
Yeah.
one.
I was
Already got
wondering where it was too.
They
Hey, for a
they
first-time
changed it.
Zoom user, you're doing very
It
well.
wasn't there.
That's
but-
right.
It's new.
I was-
It's a new.
I was afraid to click on anything because I didn't want it to disappear.
Uh,
There you go.
technology at its best.
Yeah, see? Yeah, here we go.
All right,
But now
thank
you
you,
know.
everyone.
Thank
night.
you.
All right,
Right.
Good night.
thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Okay. All right.
Hey guys,
Where
it's
are
Anna
we?
here at Nursery of Personality.
Let's see. All right. Let's just touch briefly upon 5 Old Orchard, which is listed on the agenda, but the property owners would like to just hold off on this discussion. They're evaluating options. So we will not be discussing that this evening. Shall we do 30 North Main Street?
Sure.
Okay, and so, Stephen, I guess you will recuse yourself from the board and enter as the owner of 30
That's-
North Main Street.
that-
And
that's-
Mark, are you available? I see you're off. I don't know if something came up.
Yes,
Oh,
I
okay.
am. I was just putting
Okay,
one plan away and pulling the plans out for 30 North Main Street.
okay, so let me just bring up floor plans,
Excuse me.
make them.
So, Daryl, if you could, and I think it might make it easier. I know there's 2 items in the folder. If you could bring up the second item first, the one that says
Oh, all right, sure.
30 North Main
Loft
Loft
review?
Review, that's the one, right?
Yep.
Right. And also, just to let you know, the builder, Scott Holcomb from Woodland Residential, he's also on the call. He's the one with the phone that ends with 050.
Okay,
So a little bit of background. What we did is I know we went before the board a couple weeks ago, and there were some different suggestions that were done. And then one of the things that we wanted to do is we wanted to see how it's the loft area that was we had some discussions about. So I wanted to see how lofts were done in some other homes around town. So 59 North Main Street has got 3 different types of buildings there. And so what I did is I've got the plans for the second floor, and you can see you've got this loft area, and try to remember this. There's a commonality of having the stairs go into the loft area, and another commonality is a laundry room. And again, it's all open. So if you could scroll down, Daryl, please. We'll look at one of the other ones. So here's another one. And again, similarity, you've got the steps that are leading into the loft. You got a laundry room, and it's all open. You don't have any walls for that office/loft area. And then the third one, again, very similar. You've got your steps leading up into the loft office area. This one doesn't have a laundry room. It's got a mechanical room. I'm not sure if that's where they were gonna put a laundry, but they called it a mechanical room. So short and sweet, that I just wanted to show those. And then, Carol, if you could please fire up, there we go. So this is the plan. That's the first floor. I know we reviewed it from a room count standpoint. We had 3 rooms here. And then if you scroll down, this is the second floor. And this has a loft area, again, with the steps leading into the loft area. It's open. And then there's a small closet behind the bathtub that would be used for a stacked washer and dryer. So that the loft area could be used as a laundry room, office, sewing room, whatever. So that's what we came up with. And I think it's the precedent before it, looking at 59 North Main. Again, I think we're in line with what's been done in the past. We're not trying to break any new ground here.
Right, and so the thing that changes from before, when there was a room here, I think some of the walls shifted a bit, but then any room that offers privacy, that's the second floor and above, is deemed a bedroom. But this doesn't offer privacy that one would expect for a bedroom. So even if you wanted to call it, it's either an enlargement of the hall. We often refer to these as lofts. If you wanted to call it office, that could be done, because frankly, you would have 3 bedrooms, these 2, and then the one on the 3rd floor.
Yep.
And then the 3 rooms on the 1st floor, so that's 6 rooms. Even if this was called a room, although it's not a room at the moment, it would still fit the 3-bedroom septic system.
I think it does.
The way I see it.
So I think that's what we finalized on. Also, it's, and I'm not sure if this means much, but the entire floor space is, we figured about 1,400 square feet for all 3 floors, and that's way below what 59 North Main. I think the smallest one of those was around 1,900 square feet. So again, we're just trying to make the best use of the inside area.
Do any other board members have comments that they'd like to share on this, or questions? Julie?
I'm doing better with my hand raising. I think this is completely consistent with how we have viewed these spaces. There's no semblance of privacy. It would not be a quick and easy thing to just slap in a door. There's not a pre-existing doorway just waiting for a door to be put in by a handyman. I think that's a critical piece. And I think this is consistent with our past practice. So I think it's great.
You could just speak, Diana, since I see you're
I'm looking for my emoji. Okay, thank you. So
I'm reading
I
the
just had
other
a question, Stephen, about the 3rd floor. It looked open. Is that really going to be a bedroom with the door, or is that just open?
It's the stairs. At the bottom of those stairs, there'll be a door there, but the whole rest of it's going to be open. In fact, to be honest with you, I don't think it will ever be used as a bedroom. It'll be insulated and all that good stuff, but I think people that are going to live there are probably going to live on the 2nd floor.
Do you have a teenage daughter? My daughter took that same situation and took the whole thing.
The plan is for this, and again, not to get into it, but I'm hoping my son and his family move in here, but we'll see about that. They don't have a teenage daughter.
Okay, so, so Mark, you need authorization to approve the building application?
Typically, what the board would do in a case like this is, once it's agreed upon, which it has been, is just to vote to allow me to approve a building application with the same plans as presented tonight.
Okay,
And that's
so do we
obvious,
have a,
up to Rough
go ahead.
Electrical, because Stephen knows he has to install the septic system at the same time. And then once the septic certificate of compliance is completed, conditional to possibly mature vegetation, then I can lift that one condition, which is up to Rough Electrical. And Steve, I think we talked about that, didn't we not?
We
About-
did.
Okay, good. Just so you know. Thank you. That would be my recommendation to the board.
All right, so do we have a motion to approve, to authorize Mark to approve the building plans conditional to, well, have these already been submitted to the building department, or this is still
I
forthcoming?
don't know, Steve, have they submitted these yet to the building application?
I'm not sure if these updated ones have been, but I
Yeah.
know, again, Scott's on the call and I'm sure he can do that.
Yeah, just let me know when it gets on the building application. Unfortunately, once you have one in, I don't get notified of new plans coming in, so just have Scott or you call me, and that way I'll know it's there and I can go forward with it after this vote.
Okay, so, yeah, I'm gonna back up again then and say, do we have a motion, authorize Mark to approve the building permit for this project if and when the plans come in reflecting what we've seen here this evening? And he can approve them for up to Rough Electrical, pending the status of the septic system
So moved.
installation.
Seconded.
Hey, any other discussion? Hearing none, I guess, Julie,
Okay.
you will start the
Julie, sorry.
voting because
Julie
Stephen
Dreyfus.
cannot.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Daryl Beardsley, aye. Okay,
Thank you.
yes, very welcome. All right. Permits. All right.
Carol, we
I
have
think we
business
have
under the
them.
chair. Yeah.
Yep, number 3.
Yeah. Do you
Okay,
want me to
would
take
you like
that
to
one?
introduce that?
Yeah, I'm wondering if I need to do a screen share. We have 2 soil testing applications from Bob Murchison for 169 Maple Street. That is for an additional septic system, I believe for an ADU on that lot. We also have a soil test application for multiple lots at 65 Farm. This is the one, Daryl, let me pull it up. It might just be easiest for the board
Okay,
if I shared my screen. I don't know if you guys. Because if you are like me and after a while you get confused as to what lot's what, it might help to see it. Let's see if I can do this. I'm sorry, guys. Are you seeing a sideways plan?
Yes.
yep,
And are you no longer cross-eyed? Okay. So for, let's see, the proposal is for, if you see the yellow lot 3, if you recall, we've already approved a well and septic plan for this lot. The proposal is for 1 deep hole at the area of the house site for groundwater. If you recall, per our regulations, you have to have at least 2 feet below the foundation. The other area is lot 5, that is the orange area, that will be a test at the site of the house. That is the only deep hole proposed. It is not for a full SAS. And then the third lot, which is labeled here as lot 6 in pink. The testing area is 1 dipole at the area of the house site and 1 percolation test down here in this lower area. Is an addendum to testing that's been done in that area previously. So what we need to do is authorize a health agent to witness a certified soil evaluator, which would be a health agent, to witness the soil testing for both this 65 farm and for 169 Maple Street. I didn't pull up the test area there, if you guys really want me to do that. At this time, we do not have a casual part-time supplemental health agent on our staff, unfortunately. And so that gives us limited options for what to choose. What we have, the consultants, there are 2 consultants that we have used. One is Paul Sanier, who has worked on the plan review for lots 3 and 4. Daryl, am I wrong about that? I think I've got that right. I believe Paul did the plan review for
1 and 2 for Washington Street, right?
I think Paul also did the plan review for lots 3 and 4
Yeah.
at 65 Farm.
Yes, he did. Okay. Yep.
The other consultant that we are currently employing is Stantec. As we've noted before, we are using Stantec to date for 40B or potential 40B projects. They are a corporate consultant, and so we don't get one person when we hire with Stantec. We get a team of people that has been particularly useful and relevant, particularly in the context of 40B projects, which have the potential to be more complex and detailed projects. But we're at the point where we have to do the soil testing. I will note, because this is new construction per our regulations, the soil testing, the applications have been received by the required date. The testing is supposed to be completed by April 30th. One of the considerations that we should make tonight is that the time it will take for us to then check in with the consultant that we choose to make sure that they are available and are able to schedule to come out to the testing site at the time that the applicant is able to have an excavator on site. We might need to consider a small extension beyond the April 30th date if it is on us that we cannot have an agent available before April 30th. Does that make sense?
Yes, and we have done that sort of extension in the past where there were just a lot of projects, which is what is happening. And some of these they're testing, but it's just lots more testing, lots more sites of testing. So it has had to be extended in the past too. Also happened due to weather.
Rebecca, we can't hear you.
Thanks. When was this purchase and sale completed?
No, this is part of the existing 55-65 parcels. These are A&R lots that are being subdivided.
Yeah, so I think that the timing of the testing is well known to this particular landowner. And so I don't think that the Board of Health should be giving any extensions because he knows exactly what the rules are.
That's not the issue. The issue is there's a lot of testing going on, and it's been a tight squeeze to fit in for the month of April.
So the request was submitted, but we're the ones who can't get it done in time? What do we have evidence of that?
The application deadline for soil testing for new construction is April 1st. The applications were received on that date. The issue here is we have not approached either Paul Saunier or Stantec to see what their availability is. And so we'd be coming to them, and given that it is April 9th, fairly last minute to say, hey, how quick can you get out here? And so I just want to acknowledge, since we will not have a meeting before April 30th, that if we have limited availability, that we can provide an agent, an authorized agent on our behalf, that we may have to grant. I'm not suggesting a long extension by any means, a week or two, whatever is required for us to have an agent out there at their earliest convenience.
Yeah, no, but the problem is not that. The problem is the reliability and the accuracy of the testing. The timing is more based on the reliability of the information that we gather. So it doesn't make sense why we haven't gone ahead and scheduled that if the application was submitted on time.
It was submitted, I don't remember. I believe it was April 1st. I don't have that in front of me. It was April 1st is the deadline. I will say that there are a number of applicants in town who just made that deadline as well. It's kind of like people get it in at the last minute.
Right.
And as Daryl noted, that in the past, just because there's only so much testing that we can have witnessed and staffed in the month of April, there have been occasions when we push over for the first week, maybe 2 weeks of May. That has been a practice we've done in the past. In no way would we be suggesting going far outside of the testing range, because I agree, if you did this in July, it would not be appropriate. So it would really just be that week or two into May.
And there's
Yeah,
other
and I just think
things besides just the coordinating between the availability of equipment, the availability of the applicant's engineers, and the availability of the agent on behalf of the town. All those three of those things have to come together and work in a schedule, and it's not simple to do. And so what Julie's proposing is just a way to address that. Because it's a very busy month. It's just what it comes down to.
Maybe that would, if we had an administrator, some of that would be taken care of, maybe.
Not those three factors I just named. The administrator would not make a bit of difference, because it's the people who have to be out in the field, the people in the equipment who have to be out in the field at the same time. And everybody has other demands on their time. It's not as if the consultants for the applicants are, available every single day, nor is the agent who has other commitments. So, as are the pieces of equipment that people all over who are doing testing at this time period want to use, or other construction projects. Complicated.
I would love to hear what, I should also note that while these are two distinct applications, 169 Maple is for soil testing for an additional septic system. Again, my understanding is for an ADU. If you recall, we have recently approved a septic system for that lot, and my understanding it is almost complete. So this would be an additional system on that lot. And there would be a deep hole at the site of the proposed structure as well. So then 65 Farm is a different lot with multiple testing areas. We do not have to authorize the same agent for both of these lots, right? We could do something different, or we could use the same person.
Why don't we
I'd
just
also like to throw in the mix that we consider asking, it's unlikely because shared services is down a staff person, including one of the people who goes out in the field. So highly unlikely, but we can ask as a first line if they would be available for any of it.
Yeah, I think that would be that'll be tricky because they've had, they're having one of their Title V certified soil evaluators leaving this week. And so they are in a major transition, short-staffed. And given that we have a tight timeline, I think that's going to be really tricky.
Yes.
But
I
we
just want to put it out there as a cost-saving measure, if it would work, but
Yeah.
the probability.
That would be my first choice. I have to say, it would absolutely be my first choice, but I think we have to have an alternative. If we were to say that was our first choice, I think we have to reasonably have a plan B.
Oh, I agree with that. Absolutely.
And why don't we just have Mark Oram do the testing?
The contents of that, Rebecca, date back to our fall executive session, and we cannot discuss that in open meeting.
I know, but I still think that rather than changing the rules, this should be the consequence of the decision and in the context of our inability to fulfill the rules. Then why don't we just have Mark Oram do it? He can do the job. He will do a good job.
Again,
and I know I don't agree.
You need to read the documents that were
just going back.
provided.
we cannot discuss in open session.
Right.
There is background to that, and I would encourage you to go back to.
I'm very familiar with it. I'm very familiar, and I don't agree with the decision that was made. I wasn't in the discussion, and I wasn't included. And I think that we have a very good agent who can do the job. And because that we're giving, instead of giving giving an exception to the rule, I say we give an exception to the special agent and have our agent do it in the right time. I mean, that would be an alternative that I would propose.
You were invited to the executive session. You were provided the materials. This is not the time to discuss this.
No, it's not.
I'm familiar with all the material. I'm just saying that I personally would propose that we have a vote, that we can, instead of extending the deadline, we consider having our agent do the work. Because that would be an exception to the current situation. The current situation is that an alternative agent has been applied, and if you want an extension, then you and we can't, then why not have our agent who would be able to do the job?
I will also note that our agent is already has a filled schedule for this month. It's also number of hours a week, and Mark Worm is fully scheduled.
Mark is extremely.
So that's not an automatic solution either.
And Rebecca, you made an important comment, and we'll see this carefully. In no way are we suggesting in this appointment that Mark lacks any competency. I fully agree that Mark is a very competent agent. That is not the issue here.
I understand the issue.
So we have to choose between, at this point, we need to get the part-time health agent posting out there. It would really help us in the long term here, because we will continue to have this problem clearly. So that is definitely something we have to put some wheels on. But right now we have to choose between, why don't we break this down per property? Why don't we start with 169 Maple? Again, that is going to be testing for an additional septic system for what I believe will be an accessory dwelling unit. We have the options of Paul Saunier, or we have the option of appointing Stantec to that project. For the scope of work we're doing at this moment, it is just for the witnessed soil testing. I am not proposing that we authorize an agent for anything beyond that, such as plan review, that right now we just stick to the witnessed soil testing.
Is our vote to appoint a supplemental agent, or is our vote to choose which agent?
Both. It is to authorize a certified soil evaluator to act as an agent of the board for the witness soil testing at 169 Maple Street.
I would say right now, in the absence of shared services being available, I think I would want to simplify things for us and stay with Stantec, as a consistent approach.
I have been impressed by the quality of the work done by Stantec. I am cognizant that as a corporate contract, that has a real cost. It is a cost that I do not take lightly. However, I have felt very confident in their work. And I would support them for the soil testing at 169 Maple.
Diana or Steve, do you have any?
Were you thinking of them for both projects or to reach out to them to do just 169 Maple and the other agent to do, the other consultant to do the Farm Road project? Or
Breaking it down for us so we could swallow the elephant a little easier. I was dividing this as first we're going to talk about 169 Maple and we will authorize an agent just for that soil testing. Then we'll come to farm. We can elect to use the same agent or we can elect to use different agents. We can decide that. But right now I just want to parse this out into 2 votes.
So it's 159 Maple right now. is what we're doing.
169.
169, sorry.
Yeah, 169 Maple. So we
And
need.
I've already shown my hand that I'm inclined to say the same thing for the next property.
I think we should still divide it into 2 separate votes, Daryl, just
Yes, I agree.
record.
Yep. No, I agree. Procedurally, it's cleaner.
But yes, I would also do I would agree, Stantec over at 65 Farm. Steve, Rebecca, Diana, what are you thinking for 169 Maple?
My only issue with soil evaluating, et cetera, for all of the reasons that pertain to the discussion in the very first case we were discussing in the Board of Health tonight meeting. I think that it's important that I don't know what the current status is of, but I think that it's important that active licensure be part of the credentials of whoever's doing that work. So I just don't know that information.
I think I can say with full confidence that Stantec, because again, it is a
right. No, I'm just saying, so between
they will have someone with the correct certification.
Yeah. So
they've identified her. In fact, I can't remember.
So I agree with you that I think Stantec would be a good choice for this property.
All right,
Steve,
so
what do you
are
think?
we ready for a motion?
Oh, I was gonna let Steve and Diana put their hat in and decide tell us what they think.
I think one of the things that we talked about with the supplemental health agent was trying to, and Daryl helped me with this. I know last week when we talked to Jeremy, that was one of the tasks that he was supposed to do, was to help us put together that ad.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how quickly something could be turned around there, but I got a feeling that right now we're kind of pressed for time. So I think Stantec would be I mean, they're confident they can do the work. You're right, they're going to be expensive though.
Yeah.
How about if, all right, good point. And then I have a motion in mind on how we can address that. So
Diana,
Diana, did you want to say anything?
Oh, to add to that, no, I know we've seen their work with other projects. And I expect a corporation would have someone available.
Yes,
Yeah.
we do have a team of folks. I was thinking a motion would be, do we have a motion to approach first shared services to see whether they are an option? If that is not possible, to then proceed to contacting Stantec to confirm that they would be available to work to observe soil testing, subsurface testing at 169 Maple Street. However, and this would be the non-techie, if by some miracle if we had been able to secure a supplemental health agent in the interim, which I think is highly unlikely, that we would be able to potentially switch for cost-saving reasons.
Friendly amendment to
Absolutely.
that motion. I think it is a far-flung wish that we will have someone hired in that role. I think we could actually just drop that from this motion to be cleaner. And I think we need to include with the, if needed, the extension of the past the April 30th date for soil testing for the earliest convenience of the agent.
I like that. All right, so do we then have a new motion of, or do I need to say it all out, or can I just say a hybrid as amended by Julie?
I think
So the general flow would be check with shared services, connect with authorized Stantec, and have an extension on the time period if needed. The goal is still to aim for getting it done as early as possible.
Yeah, do we need to bound the extension?
I would say preferably less than 2 weeks into May.
The middle of May would be the 16th. No later than the 16th. I don't want to leave ambiguity in when this testing can be done.
Right. Yeah. I was thinking the 14th, like literally the 2 weeks of whatever.
I picked the 16th was a Friday. It was just clean that way.
Okay.
That's why I picked the 16th.
Right.
iPhone, I know you have your hand up, but we're in the middle of a motion. And so we're going to finish our motion and vote, and then we will acknowledge you if you are choosing to speak. Okay, does everyone understand the motion? So the additional, the second friendly amendment is extension of testing if needed, no later than May 16th.
Yes.
Okay. Does anyone have questions on the motion?
May 15th seems pretty soon.
I think we were trying to give a reasonable extension beyond the April 30th date, but we did not want it to become,
A month.
Right. I think because what that encompasses is our next meeting will be on the 7th. I'm sorry, I'm pointing to my calendar. Our next meeting will be on the 7th. And if we determine from Stantec, if we get to Stantec, that they are unable to supply a witnessing agent by the 16th, then we can come back with a new motion to extend further. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that clears it up.
And just to go over the importance of the test season and why it's limited, is that if models are found out in the field, they're definitive on groundwater, historic high groundwater elevation. The problem becomes when you are relying on observing groundwater and then making an adjustment against USGS wells. The farther you go into the growing season, I mean, Mark has often commented on how dramatically the USGS wells change when there's leaf out, that, you know, the trees just pull the water out of the ground and the levels drop. And therefore, as people are digging and testing, if you don't see water, you can't find it, then you have to assume it's at the bottom of your test pit. And so then it's a function of the limit of the excavator. And then you adjust up from there using the USGS well data. So that's, and it just causes confusion and other things. So it's better to do the testing in the wet season in general. And wet not being only related to rain in this case, it's, you know, the other dynamics going on, evapotranspiration. Oh, all right, so I will move that.
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none?
Steve Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Carol Beardsley, aye. Okay, and Mary, before we go on, do you have a comment?
Hi, sorry. Yes, it's Mary Moore, 49 Farm Road. I just wanted to ask if the extension on the 2 weeks is, considered or needed. Would that be something that would be part of a public hearing so we could, be aware of that?
Well, there isn't going to be another meeting until May 7th, so there is the potential that it would not be. Because we have
Yeah,
well, two weeks of schedule just fell this year that 1 week is school vacation and another week is town meeting week.
Yeah, maybe I wasn't clear. If the 2 weeks that you're granting as part of the motion that you just approved, if more time is needed, would that be something that would be brought back to your meeting on the 7th?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And I do appreciate the difficulty you guys are facing with this, but I also, these are important test pits that are going to be done. So we appreciate the diligence. Thank you.
So now we'll go to 65 Farm. This should be, since this is one parcel being subdivided, and while there are multiple testing areas, I think on what will be multiple ANR lots, I think, because you're gonna have the same digger and the same engineer going up for all these, it should be the same agent for each of the 4 proposed test areas. I would suggest the exact same motion that we had at 169 Maple, that I think we can approach shared services to see if they would be available to do this. In the event that they are not available, we should approach Stan Tech and ask them if they can supply a witnessing soil evaluator to act as our agent. And if due to our limitations of providing an agent, cannot have the testing completed by April 30th, that we grant an extension for the testing to be completed no later than May 16th. I think that was a motion.
I'll say so moved.
Okay.
Would anyone like to second? We could still have more discussion if you want afterwards.
I'll second the motion.
Okay. Discussion. Anyone have further comments about that?
Hearing none?
Steve Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Carol Beardsley, aye. Okay.
Looks like we're on to minutes.
Yes, I think that's the next topic here. So, oh, Mary, I see your hands up again.
I'm sorry, Daryl, I apologize. I was confused that you were still on Maple Street on the prior one, but I just wanted to reiterate my comments that if there was additional time requested or needed, that would come before the board in a public way that we could, be aware of it.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Expect, if that is an issue, it would be at the May 7th meeting. Okay. All right. All those. And, all right, so we had 4 sets of minutes that needed to have any suggested edits that were submitted by board members incorporated. So that has been done for the September 18th, October 2nd, October 16th, and November 6th minutes. Would anyone like to make a motion that we approve all those revised minutes?
Yeah. I will. I move that we approve the revised minutes as provided for September 18th, October 2nd, October 16th, and November 6th.
Diana?
I read through those, and there were just a couple typos on one of them, but the content was good, much better than it had been. So I submitted a couple of edits to remove a couple typos to Jean it was on October 2nd. The rest, I didn't submit any more edits on.
Okay. All right. So then the motion would be to might have to be amended to include the revisions to the revised minutes. That makes sense?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none.
Did we made the motion, did we move it in second? Yes. I'm sorry.
Yes, moved and seconded, then she made a comment, so I kind of did a very informal amendment of that.
Steve Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell abstain. I'm going to abstain because I wrote edits, never submitted them, and then I've had a major family crisis for the last 2 weeks, so I haven't reviewed them. But you have enough to pass this, so I'm going to abstain from all of these votes. The minutes.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry.
Okay. No problem. Daryl Beardsley, aye. And then we received the draft minutes for November 20th. Have people had a chance to review and come up with any suggested edits? Are we ready to do this? I've gone through them, so.
I've gone through them as well, and I think to the rest of the board, I guess what I would say, and I thought that the minutes were fine. I think if we were caught up, then taking time to revise perhaps wordings of sentences are not quite what I think are the clearest, and I would suggest a revision. If I saw a grammatical or a punctuation error, I would make that suggestion. At this point in time, given that any significant revisions have to go back to our minutes clerk, who is still trying to make way on the meetings that we do not have drafts for, I am really reducing my suggested revisions to things that are significant substance. If there is a technical detail that is incorrectly stated or has been missed, then I would submit a revision. But I'm just letting folks know that I'm letting go the typos and any grammar errors, because I think that's not the level of detail we're at this point in time. So I'm certainly ready to approve the 11:20 minutes.
And I've been taking a similar approach. Okay, so do we have a motion to approve the minutes for November 20th, including, I'm assuming mine were minor. Would you classify yours as relatively minor, Julie?
Because it was all just some grammatical things, I chose not to submit revisions. I decided that it was
okay.
Fuck.
I think I had, yeah, a couple spelling changes and some other something, nothing major.
Nothing of substance.
Okay, so move that we, or ask for a motion to approve the minutes with minor edits as provided for the November 20th set of minutes.
So moved.
Seconded.
Any other discussion? Hearing none?
Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Rebecca,
Sorry, I'm going to abstain from this also.
Okay, and Daryl Beardsley, aye. So the only item left is the agenda items for the May 7th meeting. And we have a continuation of the hearing of this evening. We'll probably have some follow-up with some of the projects we've discussed now, but that's kind of far out for me to really know all of the things right now that are going to be lined up for that meeting. Could be some food permits for the library fair, if more come in. But I'd just be speculating. Oh, Mike, great. Mark, do you have insight?
I don't on that, but I do have insight for another agenda item. Obviously, 5 Potter House will be continued. But the document that we've all been waiting for from DEP on accessory dwelling units has now been put out as of today. Mass Health Offices noted that DEP produced a document as of April 7th. And I'll make sure everyone gets that, but I'd suggest we have that on the next agenda.
That's a good idea.
That's a great idea.
And yeah, we can have Jean, and I got a copy of that, but we could have Jean send that out. It's just a link to the
yes
to a website for that. So
yeah. Okay. It's possible, Daryl, we will have the Washington Street Homes plan for review.
Yes.
Not known, but possible.
Yes, because it's
I'm sorry, Washington Street Sherborn Homes.
Yes. So, just so folks know that there was the plan was reviewed, some deficiencies were identified, so that needs to be corrected, and then it is possibly going to be ready for us by the 7th.
We just received the information from our agent, and so I'm not committing that it'll be done by then, but
right
as we consider what's on the agenda.
Okay, that's all I have for the moment.
Sounds good.
Oh, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Seconded.
I'm assuming I'll hear no further discussion. So, Stephen.
Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Carol Beardsley, aye.
Have a good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Aye.